Okay, we are looking at Federalist number 29. This is part 2. I will read it for you here in just a minute. I have probably mentioned these two authors, Joseph Ellis and Carol Birkin, before. And I've said if you cannot read their books, definitely watch their videos, the video of their lectures about their books. Both of them specialize in early American history. A Brilliant Solution is one of the better short books about the Constitutional Convention and the delegates that went there. So if you can, take a look at this book. She has a talk about the book on C-SPAN, and might be some other places, but I haven't been able to find it yet. So definitely listen to that talk. And then Joseph Ellis has lots of talks on C-SPAN, a lot of interviews, a lot of lectures. Again, if you can't buy the books, watch the videos. Those will be really, really helpful. And of course, these are not the only two professors and lecturers that I've mentioned. There's hundreds of them, and we will gradually get there. So let me start reading Federalist 29. If you pay attention, Federalist 28 was written on December 26th, I believe. And then this is the first one that he writes in January of 1788. So they started writing the Federalists in late October of 1787. So from late October 1787 till end of 1787, they wrote. Publius wrote 28 papers. And Publius, as you all know by now, are the pseudonyms for Hamilton, Madison, and John Jay. Okay? So number 29 is going to be by Hamilton. And as I said before, Federalist 23 through 29, he talks about the military and common defense, what we need, what we don't need, what are the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation, and what this new Constitution does that would be advantageous to you. The power of regulating the militia and of commanding its services in times of insurrection and invasion are natural incidents to the duties of superintending the common defense and of watching over the internal peace of the Confederacy. It requires no skill in the science of war to discern that uniformity in the organization and discipline of the militia would be attended with the most beneficial effects whenever they were called into service for the public defense. It would enable them to discharge the duties of the camp and of the field with mutual intelligence and concert, and an advantage of peculiar moment in the operations of an army. And it would fit them much sooner to acquire the degree of proficiency in military functions which would be essential to their usefulness. So far, he's saying if we're going to have militias from different states, the first thing we have to remember is that they have to be able to work with one another. So you want to make sure that the training is uniform. They can follow the same rules when they are called upon, when there's an emergency. So he says you don't even have to be a military scientist, a person who knows who's a general or an officer. This just makes sense. The desirable uniformity can only be accomplished by confiding the regulation of the militia to the direction of the national authority. You set the federal government, the national authority set the standards of what this training is going to be like. It is therefore with the most evident propriety that the plan of the convention proposes to empower the Union to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. Here, this is all highlighted. He says, we set the rules, okay? This is a compromise, but we let the states appoint the officers and let the states do the training according to the federal regulations, according to the rules we set, okay? And then in the early part, earlier when he says, the desirable uniformity can be accomplished. National authority, he's talking about the federal government. And, okay, I will continue with this now. Of the different grounds which have been taken in opposition to the plan of the convention, there is none that was so little to have been expected, or is so untenable in itself, as the one from which this particular provision has been attacked. If a well-regulated militia be the most natural defense of a free country, it ought certainly to be under the regulation and at the disposal of that body which is constituted the guardian of the national authority. If standing armies are dangerous to liberty, and efficacious power over the militia in the body to whose care the protection of the state is committed, ought, as far as possible, to take away the inducements and the pretext to such unfriendly institutions. If the federal government can command the aid of the militia in those emergencies which call for the military arm in support of the civil magistrate, it can the better dispense with the employment of a different kind of force. If it cannot avail itself of the former, it will be obliged to recur to the latter. To render an army unnecessary will be a more certain method of preventing its existence than 1,000 prohibitions upon paper. So basically here he's reminding the readers, he's reminding the American people in different states, look, you're telling us you hate standing armies. And we are saying we just want a small standing army, a small professional army. And we're saying that when the time comes, we use the militia, and you're criticizing us for using the militia because you say the militia is going to oppress us, is going to be a tyrant over us. It's going to take away our freedoms. He says, well, you can't have it both ways. He said, what we are suggesting here is we'll have a small professional army, and then we will use the militias only in times of emergency. This way we can actually have only a small professional army. This way we are guaranteeing to you that this national army will not be too big, and if in case some authoritarian person or somebody who has authoritarian tendencies takes over, cannot use it to crush you and take away your freedoms. And as you remember in the last paper, he said, if the federal government or any government gets out of hand, you can actually stand up to it, rise up, and do what we did at the beginning of the revolution. So here, with a small professional army and with the militia of different states trained uniformly, we can take care of both the problems.